Hello. Thanks for joining us again on the channel. I've always been curious about this one, and now that a friend picked one up, we can finally talk about it. His experience, start to finish. Quick note before we begin. There's a discount link in the description and the top comment if you want to check it out. Now let's not waste any more time and jump right into the details.
Let's start with our first reviewer's experience.
This reviewer, a software engineer, found this monitor to be a dramatic improvement over their previous dual 1080p setup. For programming, the upgrade from 1080p to 4K resolution was a night and day difference. All of the code in their development environments became beautifully crisp with perfect clarity, making the entire coding experience significantly more enjoyable. The transition from a TN to an IPS panel was an equally major upgrade. Our reviewer noted that colors appeared much more true and vibrant, which was especially noticeable in dark-themed applications where darker shades no longer looked washed out. The physical design also received high marks for its sleek, thin bezels and clean, professional style, complemented by a very sturdy and adjustable stand. Before making the purchase, this client had read about potential issues like backlight blade and color inconsistencies. However, their personal experience was overwhelmingly positive. Any backlight bleed was virtually unnoticeable during regular use, only appearing faintly on a completely black screen when the computer was shutting down. It was a complete non-issue, even against the dark backgrounds common in coding. Likewise, reported problems with color tints over a DisplayPort connection were absent, suggesting that any earlier firmware issues have long since been resolved. While bought primarily for work, the display also performs well for some casual gaming, looking great as long as you have the hardware to drive it. The reviewer did mention that its anti-reflective coating might allow for a bit more glare in a very bright room compared to other screens, but it wasn't a problem in their own environment. In conclusion, the massive leap in image clarity and color fidelity has made this monitor a winner, so much so that our reviewer is now convinced they need to purchase a second one to replace their old 1080p display.
Alright, let's find out what our next reviewer has to share.
This reviewer starts by praising the physical attributes of this monitor, noting its beautiful, sturdy, and well-constructed design. The gunmetal gray color is also appreciated for adding a professional touch. However, the color accuracy using DisplayPort connections is a point of concern. The reviewer noticed that green, cyan, and yellow colors were off. Interestingly, these color issues were not present when using HDMI. They plan to use a color calibrator to provide more specific data soon. The HDR performance is deemed decent. While the reviewer can't accurately measure the HDR quality, they were impressed when viewing native HDR video content, even if the colors were a bit oversaturated. They suggest that those prioritizing HDR might consider an HDR TV instead, as HDR monitors are currently quite expensive, but acknowledge that seeing HDR content on this monitor is still a great experience. After receiving a second unit of this monitor, some additional observations were made. Out of the box, the second monitor displayed a more greenish hue compared to the first, which leaned towards cyan. This was observed when both were connected using the same mini DisplayPort and graphics card. On a cold boot, the second monitor exhibited more light blade, and both showed a rainbow haze, potentially an IPS anomaly during warm-up. This discoloration isn't noticeable during normal use and is only apparent in a dark room with a black screen. When connected via mini DisplayPort or DisplayPort, both monitors showed similar color accuracy, brightness, and contrast. However, when using HDMI, the brightness and contrast seemed off, but the color accuracy was improved. The reviewer also discovered that the HDMI port on an older graphics card produced worse color accuracy, with noticeable banding and inaccurate colors in grayscale gradients. Testing with different HDMI cables yielded the same results, leading to the conclusion that color is.
Great! Now let's see what our next reviewer has to say about their experience.
This reviewer wants to share their experience with this 27-inch display. Initially, they were a bit concerned because the first one they received had pretty bad backlight blade. However, after getting a replacement, things improved significantly, although there's still a tiny bit of bleed visible in dark scenes. A reviewer has been using this screen for a while now, mainly as an external monitor for their MacBook Pro, but also hooked up to PS4 Pro and a secondary PC. They found it worked flawlessly with their MacBook Pro right out of the box using a USB-C to DisplayPort cable. The high DPI scaling in macOS looks great, and makes a noticeable difference in sharpness compared to their older 1440p screen. One of the biggest selling points is its HDR10 support, which is quite rare at this price point. When connected to a PS4 Pro, HDR kicks in automatically and makes a huge difference in color and contrast. It also worked fine with a 4K Blu-ray player. Plus, each one comes factory color calibrated, with near-perfect sRGB coverage, making it a solid choice for photo and video editing. Connectivity is another strong point. It's got HDMI 2, DisplayPort 1.2, mini DisplayPort, 4 USB 3 ports, and an audio out. The stand is fully adjustable, offering height, tilt, swivel, and pivot options. Our client also appreciates the design with its thin bezels and premium feel. The 3-year warranty, advanced exchange service, and premium panel guarantee are also a major plus, far better than what most competitors offer. Despite the positives, it isn't perfect. The HDR, while impressive, isn't considered true HDR by some, as it doesn't hit the really high brightness levels of reference HDR displays. Also, Apple users or professionals might miss the lack of full DCI-P3 wide color gamut support, although monitors that offer it are much more expensive. Finally, it doesn't support NVIDIA G-Sync or AMD FreeSync. Overall, this client is really happy with this display. They feel it.
And that's it. If this video helped, hit like and subscribe for more. Let me know what you think down below. Thanks for watching.